So welcome to Spokane Talks Media, News Matters. And I am interviewing this morning Natalie Poulson, who is a candidate for the 3rd Legislative District, State Legislature. I'm glad you could join me, Natalie.
Yes, thank you for having me.
One of the things that happens with candidates is that some piece of the story becomes a shorthand for, oh, that's the candidate who, without really thinking about what the rest of the story is. And I wanted you to be able to tell the rest of the story about why the kerfuffle over a mask use at Finch Elementary School is more than just some stereotypical culture wars thing. It had there were some deeper problems at the root. So you go ahead and tell us a little bit about how that developed, Natalie.
So it really started with a lot of research, and I started to just try to figure out, for one, why I was struggling so much with wearing a mask, and just wanted to look into why I also saw students starting to withdraw. They were really starting to put their hoods up and have their masks on, and they even stopped making eye contact with adults and even their peers.
Right. And you've been a teacher for 18 years, so you're coming at this with a great deal of classroom experience.
Yeah, and even in addition to that, Sulani, it was the fact that my most recent position, so I was a classroom teacher at one point and a special ed teacher, and my most recent position when I chose to take the mask off was supporting students with emotional needs. So they hired me to be the expert on students' emotional health and their social interactions. So as I started to do this research and also watch students who were really withdrawing, I was trying to advocate for their emotional health. I was trying to exhaust my efforts with the school district. I went before the school board multiple times, had multiple meetings with the superintendent to tell them that one size doesn't fit all. Our students were suffering. Some of them were really suffering. And so I chose to bring that advocacy to, I guess, the forefront by choosing not to wear a mask on one school day out of 2 years.
And I understand that on that particular day, there were several others at the school who joined you in this. How did that come together?
There were actually 7 adults, and the principal ended up resigning. And the 2 teachers that were part of that were never disciplined. The janitor was reinstated, and the secretary and myself were terminated.
Okay, all over that one incident. So you now have a lawsuit following up on that termination, I believe, just filed just this week.
And so it's not quite, it's actually an appeal
appeal
to termination to get my job back. I do feel I should be reinstated. I was an exemplary teacher for 18 years, not one disciplinary action ever. And in fact, for many years, my advocacy for students was appreciated by the district. I stood up for students for many different reasons throughout my career, especially students that were in the special ed program. And at this point, when I decided to advocate, they didn't like it. They escorted me out of the building and put me on administrative leave and terminated me 5 months later.
So tell me a little bit about the appeal then, the process that you've gone through in attempting to get your job back.
So first, apparently by law for a teacher, you have to go through kind of a mediation appeal process, and they upheld the termination, the mediator. And so now I am able to appeal to Superior Court when my First Amendment right is being violated.
Okay, and what do you hope to gain besides your job back from this suit?
I really hope to be reinstated. I am a teacher. That is my career, and I love students. And again, I've always advocated for them. So my hope is to be reinstated. And with that, I just would really hope that the district would take a moment to reflect on how they treat their teachers. I'm not the first one to just be brushed aside when the teacher doesn't go by their narrative.
So before we wrap this up, I would like to give you a chance to go back a little bit to some of that research, because we may be coming into future seasons of trying to decide what's the right way to handle infectious disease, something that we've gotten out of the habit of handling in this society. But what did you find out that would be most useful for parents and teachers to know about about children's emotional health?
Well, a couple things. I had done so much research and I actually presented it to the school board. 47 studies done by NIH and CDC about the fact that masks are ineffective against viruses. We all know that they can stop some droplets, but they're not going to stop the viral transmission.
Mhm.
And in addition to that, with specifically COVID and even influenza, children are not super spreaders. And so we really have to look at what is most effective for children, meaning if they're going to spread it, but they're not super spreaders, so they're not going to get COVID at a high rate, and they're really being damaged as far as their language skills, their social interactions, their emotional health. We need to really start weighing the cost versus the benefit. Is that mask really preventing the virus versus is it harming them? I also presented another study that early childhood cognitive development is being harmed. It says that the pandemic mask wearing has significantly reduced verbal, motor, and overall cognitive performance compared to children born pre-pandemic. And in fact, in this study, it states that on average, our children are about 20 points lower on their IQ due to the fact that everyone is wearing a mask and stopping the ability to see facial expressions.
Well, that's something we should all be taking into account. I've often been actually rather glad that my grandchildren are growing up in North Dakota right now, because they've had a much different school experience than students here in Washington have had, and much more openness at their schools. So
Absolutely.
Natalie, I appreciate you joining me this morning. I know you have other plans for the day, including a ride along with the Spokane Fire District. That should be an
Yes.
interesting experience on a summer afternoon
I'm excited.
to see what's going on. Good luck with the ride along. Good luck with the campaign.
Well, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity just to be able to explain that it was more about the emotional health of children versus just an anti-mask thing. So thank
Right.
you for that.
All right. Thanks for joining me.
Bye.